stand up and say you're not being a good historian. But I hope to God I don't do that, ever.
Okay. Time, and also I think we've kept Professor McCarthy on his feet for too long, so we'll take a few more, and unfortunately, clearly I won't be able to recognize all of you. But please introduce yourself and go ahead with your question. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your comments and for all your hard work over the years to try to find the truth about this incident over the past. I mean, I would like to add a few things with your permission. I mean, we are talking about the past. We're talking about 1915, 1980s. We are talking about the war. And the truth is the first casualty in the war. And this is why we are here and still discussing this, aren't we? And Ottoman was in the war, and the war brings conflict, turmoil, starvation. People kill and people kill each other. And we killed people. I mean, in that area, or in Ottoman, Muslims killed Muslims, Kurdish killed Kurdish.
And the question, please.
And there was a war, and we are still here psychologically facing. And I think we've been suffering since those days as Turkish people, psychologically. Wherever we go, whatever we do, this is placed in front of us. Everyone against us. And this is the same for politically and economically. We know this as a whole world. So, yeah, the question, of course, the question. You said all the historical tests. Do you think the image of Turkish?
Go ahead.
Do you think the image of Turkish has changed in America and Europe now? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, surely the image of Turks in America has changed tremendously because it couldn't possibly have gotten any worse. I mean, the image of Turks in America in the time I'm talking about here was slightly better than the image of the devil, but only slightly. And in fact, in Britain at the time, it was very common for people who would say, devil take it, you know, it was an old, devil take it, they would say Turk take it instead. They'd use Turk and devil synonymously. So, yeah, it's better than that. But do I believe that prejudice in Europe, in America, is still really strong? I asked you about the European Union. Does anyone sincerely believe that prejudice isn't the main reason why Turks aren't let into the European Union? It's still there, still there. And that's what I was asked before about, someone said, what can you do? Well, as far as I'm concerned, if I were a Turk, what I would do is try to do all I could to convince people the Turks don't have horns, that they're basically good people like other people.
What? Can you take that now? All right, we'll take one more question. The gentleman at the very back, please. Yes.
Mr. McCarthy, thank you very much for your speech. I would like to ask you this. Thousands of years, the Turks, they have been everywhere, all parts of the world. And the Ottoman Empire, for 700 years, was in most of the areas. They were in Egypt, they were in Middle East, they were in Balkans, they were in all the other parts of the world. At some point, they reached 51 million square meter. Did they massacre? There was any massacre in their history? There wasn't. Wherever they went, they never ever touched local culture. They didn't touch anybody, because Turks, they don't have this. Why? What is the reason they are going to massacre Armenians? When I was a child in 19...
Excuse me, can you direct the question to Professor McCarthy?
Question is this. This Armenian issue has been created just to divide Turkey, and it's just an imperialist lie. There is not any solid evidences against it, as you explained in your speech. There is nothing to prove. There are a lot of Armenians in Turkey today. They live in peace. Yes, yes, yes. There are a lot of Armenians living in Turkey, in Istanbul, in Adana. No problem. But I am just going to tell you this. I was 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old.
Well, okay. I think.
I was.
Would you have responded?
In Amasya.
What do I say?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm told, I think.
In Amasya, there
Well,
were a lot
I'm
of.
very sorry, but I hate this to be the last one, but I really want, and Professor, I think McCarthy deserves a question. If you're going to ask a question, ask
The question is this then. Can you tell me, Mr. McCarthy, in the whole Turkish history, is somebody claimed they have been killed or tortured by Turks?
Okay, that's the question.
Well, unfortunately, I wish I could answer that question, but you're asking me about, the Turks came into Anatolia in about the year 1050 approximately, and they're still there today. You're asking me to discuss 1,000 years of history, and all I can say is, as a Turkish historian, it strikes me that the Turks were both good and bad at various times. That like human beings all over the place, they made mistakes. That some of the sultans were great men, some of the sultans were not so great. And that the main reason that people died in the Ottoman Empire, however, especially in World War I and in these periods, was because of starvation and disease. That's the main thing that went wrong in the Ottoman Empire. And also, I must say that the Ottomans, unlike some people, the Ottomans always had good manners. That was important.
All right. Yes, about talking to each other. I think there was a gentleman here early on who talked about yes, there is history and we have problems about history, but it's also true that Turkey and Armenia are neighbors today, and I think it is important for Turks and Armenians to try to begin to communicate with each other, and perhaps through this communication we will make progress in dealing with the so much pain and with this history. I think we should begin to communicate about, continue to communicate about history, but it's also important to communicate about the present and about ways of cooperating with each other. Thank you very much to all of you for coming this evening.